Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you all here with us today for this Lunch and Learn session on resilience hubs. I'm very happy to be welcoming my friend Susan Silber from the NorCal Resilience Network. We've been working together for many years now, and I'm excited to hear how this program has evolved. Knowing that it's been a dream of Susan's for so long. I'm really excited to hear how it's coming to life and hear some practical examples from Jessica Bates and Kenita Gibson, who are both doing local resilience hub work in their communities. And you can feel free to continue introducing yourself in the chat. This session is about an hour. We're going to hear from all three of these amazing presenters and then get into some breakout groups and have time for discussion. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Susan.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Marissa. And thank you, everybody, for showing up today. This has been an amazing summit. I've been tuning to a lot of the sessions. Again, my name is Susan Silber. I'm calling in from Berkeley, from Ohlone Lands, California. I am a co-founder of Transition Berkeley, and then started the NorCal Resilience Network, which you'll be hearing about. I also have Jessica Bates and Kenita Gibson here, who are going to share their amazing stories about their resilience sites. And then we're going to be getting into breakout rooms to talk amongst yourselves about resilient hubs, spaces, and blocks. So, and also feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, where you're calling from and what brings you to this call. So I am going to first share my screen. And present. There we go. Okay, the NorCal Resilience Network. I know that some of you are familiar with our organization. We're a small, scrappy organization. Our vision, our purpose is supporting and activating community-based ecological solutions. We're a regional collaborative, so here in Northern California. And really thinking about being ready for anything, as we say in transition, whether it's pandemics, climate disruption, fires, etc. How can we be prepared using a community-based approach? Because we all know that community is really that irreplaceable infrastructure, as we say, to surviving and thriving in these very uncertain times. So NorCal Resilience, we are going through, a big shift really in our organization, trying to very much center racial justice, BIPOC representation. But we do have 3 programs: our membership, which is a circle of collaborators, and then resilient hubs, which I'll be speaking about, and then of resilient funds, raising money and then distributing them to our partners. So about resilient hubs. So it's really a site-based work, looking at how sites can be demonstrations for resilience, and how it can also serve to coordinate and exchange information, distribute resources, and support community programming during disasters and every day. And part of this really stemmed from the work I did with Transition Berkeley, thinking about like, wow, it's really challenging to really transform an entire city or a city, but let's really look at this work as being site by site. How can we work with like one specific site or neighborhood to do this kind of work? And really looking at like, how do we support sites in 3 different modes: the everyday mode, and then when there's like a sudden disruption, like a fire, an earthquake, and then the recovery piece of it as well. And we do use the framework of the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. So that's the model that we're using as well. So, and looking at the sites as having 5 different kinds of components, the first being the services and the programmings, like a community garden, for example, the programming around that. And then looking at the communications, like how do you communicate and build relationships both during disasters and the everyday. And then also looking at the landscapes, the building, the gray water, the rainwater catchment, the solar with the battery backup, which is actually the resilient power systems as well, making sure that there is power during power shutoffs. And then the resilient operations, making sure that everything is going smoothly, distributing the food, the emergency materials, the staff, to ensure this is happening. So resilient hubs, the USDN official definition is that they do have a building, for example, a place of worship, a library, a community center, and we're really thinking about how to augment it so that you can be prepared for, especially for disasters. So some examples of resilient hubs, what they could do or are doing they could be centers for distributing food, for example. During extreme heat, they can be cooling centers, like libraries would make perfect resilient hubs if they have their air conditioning. They can host climate grief workshops. They could have community gardens. And if they have off-grid power, then they could be places that people go during power shutoffs. And then the next vision, or the next part of Resilient Hubs initiatives is a resilient space. So this is a site that does not have a facility or a building per se, like a community garden or a community garden or a park, for example, but they are intended to enhance or support community resilience, for example, with an events that they host. And then we have lastly, which we'll be hearing from Jessica and from Kanita, are resilient blocks in neighborhoods. So these are neighbors working together to build resilience. So they can be tiny home communities, unhoused encampments, and neighbors to neighbors really working together, especially during an emergency. If there's a fire, a neighbor's, quickly knocks on your door and says, hey, do you need help? Let's get out together. And then together, this builds a resilient bioregion, the organizations and the sites working together, and Cooperation Humboldt is a great example of a group that's doing that. So some suggested steps to creating this resilient hub space or block: establishing a site team, coordinating an assessment, and community vision sessions. What exactly does your site or your neighborhood want? Doing surveys and audits, and really writing out the long and short-term goals based on what the community wants and needs. And then of course, figuring out the funding piece of it, potential partners, and then really starting with small successes. Like, how are you going to start your first project based on what you have, what you need, and the funding and the energy of the group. And then we really would like to encourage working with local governments who are very interested right now in resilient hubs. The state of California, for example, is giving $100 million to support the development of resilient hubs. Just to share that we just completed our leadership training program for the last 8 months, working with a bunch of government partners and sites around Northern California. We have monthly Zoom sessions and in-person Skillshares as well, and worked with about 30 different sites around Northern California. So it was a great experience, lots of lessons learned. We know that the sites need funding. We know there has to be different kinds of training sessions, and we know that the sites need very specific support as well. And we're also developing a more formalized way of distributing funds to the sites and our partners as well. So really excited about that potential. We have done some pilot testing of that, actually both with Kenita and with Jessica and their sites, distributing funds to them. And, lastly, really want to share that I think this could be a great model for transition groups, developing your neighborhood as a resilient block, adopting a site in your community as a resilient hub or space, and then creating a training in your community for resilient hub spaces or blocks, or promoting this model with government partners. So feel free, please, to reach out if you are interested in, us providing support for any of those. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I am going to introduce our first speaker, Jessica Bates, who let me just grab the So Jessica is an urban farmer and a mom from El Sobrante, also a friend. And she has been really spending the past couple of years really developing La Colina Community Circle as a resilience neighborhood. And I will let her share her slides. And I'm just so excited and thrilled to have Jessica here. She's an incredible community organizer. So Jessica, take it away. Share your story.
I'm getting there, a little technical challenge. Let's see. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm so glad to be here with everyone. Let's do this in full screen. All right, here we go. So my name is Jessica Bates, and I helped bring together the La Colina Community Circle, which is a resilient hub, but also our neighborhood is a resilient space, I guess. So this is just a picture of my home, our resilient hub. So people harvesting starts on the left, volunteer vegetable starts to share. And the middle picture is just a picture of a water catchment swale, which is a ditch on contour with the land to maximize water resilience in our drought state of California. And Gary leaving a crop swap with vegetables to plant and eat. So our hub has been going on, and our neighborhood work has been going on for about 6 years. And we, as Susan mentioned, the pillars of a resilient hub, we try to embody these 3 pillars of sustainability, permaculture, community building, and disaster preparedness. And our resilient hubs kind of started as from the crop swaps. We just said, we have a lot of extra produce. Why not share it with the neighborhood? So we started doing that. And our neighborhood is a one way in, one way out space. And so there is a lot of pedestrian activity. And then we thought, why not, kind of harness that energy so we can talk to each other more often. So we started crop swaps around 2017. And it grew from there. And I do want to say that really the energy of our neighborhood resilience hub and getting more neighbors involved started around 2016, 4 days after Trump's election. A young man named Will Sims was murdered, and he was murdered because he was Black. He was murdered by white men. So as an act of white supremacy. And we came together as a neighborhood to kind of talk about how we can flip the script of hate and violence and apparent and supposed isolation and try and build something different. So what we're doing is in honor of Will Sims, and we keep doing that every day. So crop swaps continue and have actually been carrying a lot of us through the pandemic. These are all pictures from crop swaps during the pandemic that before mask knowledge was in our pockets. So we were just distancing and sharing safely, and they're still going on. at least once a month we have crop swaps and we share in that way. We are really committed to breaking away from this supposed feeling of isolation or concept of isolation that exists in this culture. And we want to build mutual support and trust. And this is, again, why we came together and formed La Colina Community Circle. And I do want to note that resilience hubs are really nothing new. This is just kind of, I think, concretizing it and rebuilding something that has always existed. I'm sure many of you have lived in neighborhoods where there's an auntie or an uncle or a neighbor friend, a house where you could just go to if you needed anything. And that's just kind of what this is. It's a different iteration of that, maybe more modern iteration of that. And it's embracing principles of sustainability and justice. So we buy bulk food together and we have rotating work parties, and there's a tool book lending library, and the tool book lending library is essentially just a spreadsheet that someone put together, and people list their resources, books and tools that they have that they're willing to lend out. But actually how it plays out is people will email the neighborhood email list like, hey, I need an impact driver, or hey, I need a pickaxe. And that's really how it works out with that. So we've done also a rotating free money gift where everyone puts in X number of dollars, and when folks come to a meeting, that pool of money gets rotated around to a different person, a different participant of that money pool. And that was really successful and actually got a lot of people to meetings. So that was fun. We're still in the ongoing process of developing a disaster plan. Our neighborhood is situated up next to a regional park called Wildcat Canyon. And just last month, actually, there was a period of time where our power is out all day, and another neighbor volunteered. They have solar, so they volunteered their refrigerator for anyone who needed refrigeration, medication, anything like that, or any power issues. And we've been having block parties. And on the lower right, you can see we decided to have a spring festival instead of a block party. And we chose to do something for the kids, and a touring group came out and presented a bunch of animals to the kids. And so that was a really great way for neighbors to connect. And we have a neighborhood map, which you can see down at the bottom, where people have written in their address, who they are. And then on a separate sheet of paper, we have a list of members in the community who are vulnerable or have specific medical issues, people that we need to pay more attention to in a time of crisis. And this was Block Party 2019. And it was great. We had about 50 people at the height of the block party. There was a bounce house for kids. There was costume sharing. We tend to do our block parties around Halloween, so it brings an element of fun as well. And this is a picture from a disaster preparedness drill that we participated in with CERT and an activity called Light Up the Bay, which is Bay Area wide and has people test out their communication skills and lines of communication in event of a disaster. And so the scenario was a earthquake that is 5.6, something like that. And we have walkie-talkies and had to walk around the neighborhood and kind of identify where potential areas of disaster, like power lines or wildfire, would occur, and communicate on that. And that actually that information was communicated by a ham radio operator to the central command, which is in Richmond, California. And so it was more than just our neighborhood. It was part of a larger thing. And that was really fun, and kind of is keeping us on our toes for what to do in that type of situation. So again, I'm with La Colina Community Circle in El Sobrante, California, which is unceded Ohlone land. And we rotate meetings to a different location every third Sunday of the month. And in these times, of course, we are having Zoom meetings, and we've had actually some outdoor meetings, and crop swaps are always outdoors, and those are once a month. So yeah, and we are trying to embody permaculture principles of earth care, people care, and share fairly. And not everyone in our neighborhood group knows about permaculture. We're just sort of doing this naturally because it's what makes sense. So that's all I have to say about what we're up to in our neighborhood. Thank you so much.
And Jessica, there was a really specific question. What is the approximate population of your neighborhood?
That is a really good question. There are probably about 150 to 200 houses in this neighborhood, and the level of involvement is, it could just be participation, could just be coming to a crop swap, or it could just be putting out on the email listserv, I have XYZ resource, or I noticed that something strange was happening in the neighborhood, or I have extra plums to share, that kind of thing. Or someone who comes to every meeting and organizes crop swaps. So not all of the 200 people are involved. We at least talk to each other face to face because it is a walking neighborhood, pedestrian neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. And I'm going to turn it over to Kanita Gibson. Kanita is a third-generation Oakland resident, an artist and community organizer with the East Oakland East Oakland Collective, right? She's been working to transform her grandma's house into a resilience neighborhood. She's going to share her stories about her successes and visions for the future, from her apothecary to gardening to developing more community partnerships. So I am going to share my screen and turn it over. Just a second. I need to find. Oh, here we go. Okay, can everybody see that?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my grandma's house. This has been an interesting journey of learning to grow food, not only grow food, but also apply the wisdom that I've learned from learning how to garden to my life and grow in other aspects. Next slide. So about grandma's house, hang on just a second. I'm also gonna pull it up on mine because it's easier to see it. Okay, so grandma's house first began as a creative healing space. And since becoming connected with NorCal Resilience at the start of the pandemic, it's transformed over time to encompass building community, resiliency, and creating stronger partnerships, gardening, providing holistic and spiritual services, and making natural medicine as well as sharing vital resources. Next slide. Talking about the work that we do, we can move on to the next one. That's actually a picture of incubating seeds, because I feel like we incubate a lot of seeds of ideas and inspiration and whatnot in the community. What was born from it partly was I'm Digging Us, and it's a shop and apothecary, and it was originally a response to environmental degradation as a whole, and the need to create wholesome, ethical products that are not harmful to the environment and that are healing on esoteric, cellular, and multidimensional levels. says here, that's a mouthful, but if you've used our products, you know exactly what I mean. They're thoughtful, they have multi-healing functions, and they're made from natural materials and ingredients and the best essential oils that I could find. And we use a portion of the funds that we generate from Digging Us to provide natural medicine, alkaline water, fresh fruit, smoothies, and meals to folks on the streets suffering from housing insecurity who otherwise couldn't afford it. And we make everything from naturopathic home remedies to cleaning products, to doing services like listening sessions and sound therapy, energy work, deep trauma healing through visualizations, numerology, soul code readings for people who need to like figure out their path, and body work, and soon to be added to the list, neuro-optimal feedback, which is brain training to help people to quickly overcome trauma, depression, sleep issues, and things like that. Next slide. This is a photo of some of the products that we produce at Digging Us, and also just one of the pop-up tables from a pop-up shop that we did for a wellness and healing retreat. Next slide. Another aspect is the Sankofa garden. In the early life of Grandma's House Hub, the garden was a major factor in our personal definition of community resiliency. We connected with Sankofa Gardens for the initial install and are now members of the Sankofa Garden family. We meet once a month to trade plants and resources and to do skill shares and community building exercises, and doing work trade for one another's gardens via neighbor labor. Our Sankofa garden has been a great teacher in what it is to have patience and to grow from battles with insects, symbiotic relationships with nature, attracting pollinators, sowing seeds, reaping the harvest, and amending the plant beds. We grow ourselves by applying these lessons to different aspects of life. Next slide. Here are some photos of the earlier life of the Sankofa garden, and also one on the end on the far right is my daughter picking out some plants at the greenhouse in at Castlemont Garden, which is one of our partners. Next slide. Kangen alkaline water. Okay, so in late 2020, we invested in a Kangen water machine to filter the harsh tap water for drinking and to use when cooking. We later started an affordable monthly water program to encourage more people to drink quality H2O. Water is available for pickup within the community, and there's delivery options for local businesses. And we have since partnered with Hope Collaborative on the Rethink Your Drink campaign to urge our community to choose to drink water instead of sugary beverages that can lead to health complications. And through this partnership, we've been able to provide free water at Acoma Market, at Liberation Park, and various other community spaces where people gather. Next slide. Here's some photos of the benefits of Kangen water for your health, which is they release excess body fat and store toxins. They normalize blood sugar and insulin, normalize blood pressure, support healthy colon function, relieves asthma and chronic respiratory infections, stops abdominal gastrointestinal intestinal putrefaction. It reduces proliferation of candida, fungus, and undesirable microforms. It reduces chronic pain, improves wound healing, and slows down aging. And there's also a pH balance chart, which shows acidity in water and how it leads to disease. And when your water is alkaline, disease cannot exist in a healthy alkaline environment. When you're eating raw food, alkaline food, and drinking alkaline water. Next. are the healing services that we offer to our community. So we advocate for mental health and different forms of alternative plant medicine, which can help to better manage one's mental health and well-being. We offer body work, breath work, sound therapy, visualization, listening sessions, numeric soul code readings, musical therapy, art therapy, and soon, like I said earlier, non-invasive magnetic neurofeedback to help people more easily break through blockages, barriers, trauma, depression, or to achieve a deeper level of rest and relaxation. Next. Building community through meaningful partnerships. You can move to the next slide. And here I have a list of the different organizations that we've partnered with. It's not a complete list. Different organizations that we've partnered with and done different projects with. And so I'll go down this list and kind of break down a little bit of what we're doing. So first is the East Oakland Collective, whom I now am a Clean Mobility Fellow with, where we do a lot of work in not selling electric vehicles, but bringing the awareness to the fossil fuel free plan for 2035 in California, and to see if people in Oakland are actually prepared to transition into a fossil fuel free life, and what does that look like. And so we talk to people about the different incentives and the different available financing options that are available for them to switch to electric vehicles. We also host a series of Martin Luther King shoreline activations that are to bring people to the shoreline, people from Oakland to the shoreline, to utilize that body of water and that space that's been neglected for so many years in our community. And to our surprise, we found that many people don't even know that it exists because it's not easy to get there. So we're planning a zero emissions bus from 73rd and MacArthur, that the bus station at Eastmont Mall, and it goes all the way down to the shoreline. And we're plotting the bus route, organizing cleanups around it to raise awareness, which there's one coming up on the 9th actually, but there's more about that later. The next on the list is Hope Collaborative, where we've connected with them about the Rethink Your Drink campaign that's allowed us to provide free water to people within our community and at community gatherings. So people don't have to pay to fill up their water bottles with us. And through this program, we're able to employ a couple of people where they could get a stipend to be a part of the team to spread the word about Rethink Your Drink and share water. Communities for a Better Environment is another connection that we've made. And right now I'm working on putting together a wellness presentation for communities for a better environment. And then there is Sankofa Gardens, who, you know, we've partnered with to create more gardens within the community. So everybody gets together in neighbor labor. We connect, identify which garden we'll work on, and then we go and we help people install and maintain their gardens. Through Black Cultural Zone, I have been working on the neighborhood messenger program, where we pretty much distribute PPE supplies throughout our community for people who need them, as well as spreading resources to people about COVID, and for those who are interested in this information about vaccines. As well as through the Neighborhood Messenger program, there's a garden group where we've connected with people who have similar interests in creating gardens and We're in the second phase of it at the moment, where we're identifying more people who want to help create community gardens within our community, because it's part of the triangle of wellness. We need clean food, air, and water. We connect with Third Eye Soul Kitchen to advocate for different things like mushroom medicine, and being the stewards of that medicine. Through Regina's Door, we it looks like I'm taking up a lot of time. I'll go quicker. Through Regina's Door, we've got together to collaborate on art installations, creating community altars and resources, and putting together lists of resources for people who have been victims of sex trafficking and violence. Castlemont Farm and Garden, we have a connection going on, which is very similar to that in the Sankofa Gardens. And for a while, I had students from Castlemont Garden working on different projects with me, and we were able to write off for their community service hours. Bodacious Bombshells is a writing working group where people could come together and heal through writing and art. I have Tracked Trust on here. I meant to take that one off, but through some friends in North Oakland, I started doing a program called Just Touch, which is healing through massage and body work. East Oakland Neighborhood Initiative is one of the neighborhood leadership groups that I'm a part of, and so is the Coalition for Climate Change. Next slide.
Kanita, maybe you can start wrapping up.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so on this next slide, there's some photos of like the different partnership things that we've done. And then after that, there is, could you move to the next slide? There's some things that are upcoming with the community groups that I was just talking about. So an updated list for Acoma Market, an adult skate and movie night for Acoma next. Black Cultural Zone is also hiring. And then here is the flyer for the bike ride on the 9th. Next slide. And then for the macro and microdose workshops that are happening at Soul Tree Alchemy. And next slide, you can stay connected with us, preferably through Linktree. That's the command center where I'm right now trying to compile everything into one place, all of the links that sends you to all of these different things that we're doing in partnerships. Yeah.
Wow, amazing, Kanita. I hadn't been up to speed about what you're doing, so that was an incredible presentation, and just the spirit of just the power and potential of what one person, what two people can do to really transform their neighborhoods. So does anybody have any like super specific questions before we go into breakout rooms? You can post them in the chat. Let's see. I guess I don't see any specific questions. So what we're going to do is we are going to break out into groups of, let's say 3. And
I see a question.
okay. What was that question?
How do you start engaging people? And can I speak to that?
Absolutely.
One thing that I forgot to mention is that I think that what happened in my neighborhood and what it seems like is happening in Kanita's neighborhood is that everything is running on a foundation of relationships, just like in nature. In my neighborhood, it started because people walk in this neighborhood a lot, and then we're like, oh, hey, let's start talking, and we build connections, we build relationships. So all of this, I think, is built on a foundation of relationships. Just like in nature, mycelium is a vast network of communication to carry on messages to trees and water and nutrients, etc. So that's my piece on that. And I think Kanita is giving a really great model of how vast and deep that network can be in terms of the organizations that she and everyone she's connected with or collaborating with. So
Awesome. Thank you. And Ruth wanted to know how many people are volunteering in your community. And then we'll move on to the breakout rooms. Jessica, how many people are actually, I guess, are engaged in your community?
I'd say it can range from anywhere to 6 to 50 people.
And I want to say that we use the word volunteer, but I would love to see, my vision would be that we actually pay people to be neighborhood organizers who can organize these kind of activities in their neighborhoods, and really obviously prioritizing frontline communities for this kind of funding. But that is a vision of mine. So I'm going to, I put the 2 questions in the chat. Introduce yourselves, think about any recent disasters you've been a part of or heard about. Are there any ways you could have used resilient hubs, spaces, or blocks to get you through this disaster? Or you could choose the question, do you have any sites in mind for supporting or starting a hub, space, or block in your community? And what might be a first step to catalyze that? If anybody has any, we have 2 minutes left, but if anybody has any like last minute, just learnings or something you're going to do as a next step, or questions for me or Kanita or Jessica, just feel free to post them in the chat. Thank you all so much. I'm going to leave my information. I'm also going to stay on a little bit afterwards if anybody has any questions for me, but I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. But please do feel free and reach out to me. I do see Andrew has his hand up. But thank you all so much. Again, NorCalResilience.org, we have a lot of resources on our website. And feel free to reach out. Would love to have this as, share this as a model with your transition group or whoever you work with. And we'll be in touch, hopefully. Thank you all so much for your time. Andrew. Did you want to, Andrew, have your hand up?
Sorry, I had to unmute that.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, first of all, I'm so impressed by the work that you folks are doing, Susan, and the other guest. Just blown away, for lack of a better term, and inspired now. This is what I want to do in my neighborhood. But as I was saying in my group, I thought maybe I would be seen as crazy. But you folks are doing it, so that's great. It's inspiring, and now I have an example to show folks. But what I'm wondering, I don't know if it is a question for you, but for everybody, I've been thinking, and I'm also hearing from some of the other folks in my group about burnout and how to keep our energy and our inspiration up. And I was thinking it would be great. I don't know if it's being done, but I'm wondering if there's a way we can form a contact list to stay in touch with each other and network with each other and learn more and find out more about what you folks are doing, Susan and others, because it really is inspiring. So that's a question for you folks and for the organizers and for everybody here, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a question for an offer for Marissa and the Transition US folks. If maybe there's like a group around catalyzing resilient hubs, spaces, and blocks within Transition US, that would be great. You can, yeah, it could be the regional organizing topic. Like I said to John, this is a very site-specific kind of model that fits within the context of regional organizing. So it's sort of a both and. But yeah, Marissa, be excited
Yeah,
to hear.
we can definitely create a space on the Mighty Networks platform for folks to continue the conversation. I know that's not the most accessible to everyone. We're all learning how to use that space. I think also if folks want to share their email with Susan, you could get added to the NorCal Network list, right? You all have an email list, Susan?
Mhm.
NorCal Resilience Network also has a Facebook group, and there we go. That might be the easiest thing, is if you join Susan's list. So yeah, we can definitely create a space on Mighty Networks, but it just needs to be kind of self-organizing right now because of capacity issues. I'm happy to, yeah, support as I can. Also, we don't have permission to share everyone's email addresses, but if folks want to share their email in the chat and connect with each other, then you're, yeah, of course, welcome to do that.
And the emails that I'm getting, are they, what are these emails for? Sorry.
Well, to add
Sarah.
folks to your list, but it looks
Okay.
like they can just email the info@norcalresilience.org to get added. Is that what
Yeah,
your
if you could do
preference is?
that, that would be amazing. Just email. There is a way to just do it directly from the website. That's like even easier. Or just email info@. That would be great too. But yeah, and Marissa, we can talk about really embedding resilient hubs as a strategy later, at a later date. Does anybody else have any quick questions? Thank you, sorry. Ruth, or Rua, I'm so sorry, Rua.
Okay, I just wanted to mention what Marissa was talking about, creating a space on the Mighty Networks. Well, actually, we're calling it the Regenerative Communities Portal, is a really great place. And that will be functioning for at least a few months after the summit. So it's not like you just have a few days there. So you could really make some strong connections and continue the conversation. And I'm going to put a plug in for Sunday that we're going to have the regional groups breakouts. And we are looking for people to come, find people that are in your region, and maybe then we'll get even smaller, that you can be doing some of this work with one another, because it takes everybody.
Totally. Any other last questions from the audience? Rita?
I wanted to make copies of some of the things that you put on screen share, and I'm wondering if those will be available for use with other groups.
Mhm.
Like if we were trying to convince another group about all the ways that we could move forward.
Mhm.
It seemed like fabulous plans that were shared there.
Yeah, we're trying to make things as what do you call it, common source as possible by putting some things on a website. We're still not clear, like, do you become a member and get access to this information, or just put it on the website? So we'll probably decide that in the next week. But yeah, as much as we can, like, scale up and replicate this work, customize it to your neighborhood, to your community, of course. But yeah, we just got to scale this up dramatically very shortly. Especially with, there's supply chains that are breaking down. We need to scale up decentralized water systems. Resilient hubs would be perfect for that, things like that. So any other last questions before we hop off? Welcome to Bonnie, who has an amazing Resilient Hubs at the Ashby Garden, and they have a GoFundMe to actually purchase their the garden. It's been used as a resilient space for the last couple of years. Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. I apologize, I arrived late and I will review the recording, but one question that comes to mind, I'm in New Jersey. Are you interested in doing, or perhaps you've already talked about doing any kind of trainings for folks out of the area, like via Zoom or whatever?
Yeah, we can, that's a possibility. It would not be for free. We you could try and, like, raise money to actually support the training itself, we got the grant that we got was $15,000 for an 8-month training. But if we do like a 4-session training, you know, we'll talk through like what that would look like. It's a very, very fundable kind of initiative.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
there is emergency preparedness funding out there for sure. Yeah.
This is as fundable as it gets.
Yes.
So
Great.
yeah, let's talk for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I see Connie on the line, who has an amazing community farm out in Petaluma. Welcome, Connie.
Susan, I just wanted
We're
to
at
say,
time.
I think, yeah, I'll be quick. I think there's an elephant in the room about like, okay, so how do we scale up? Where do those resources come from? And there was a great session yesterday with Daily Axe, another California-based group on scaling up through local government collaboration, which also touched on how to access different, you know, pots of funding and also like the human resources of your local government to scale up this work. So there's a lot of different threads that need to be woven together. And that's what we're hoping to do next year with our Regeneration Nation campaign that we'll be kind of announcing and giving a presentation on Friday at our catalyzing ceremony, catalyzing call to action ceremony, which is at 5 Eastern, 2, am I right about that? No, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern time zones.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, hope to see you there for that.
And just to speak very, very quickly to that, the resilience fund that we're creating, that is a way to pool resources from governmental agencies. So in other words, if the water agency gives this fund $100,000, then this fund will then redistribute the funds with a much easier grant, because we know that government funding is very, very hard to it's hard to get government funded. But what if we, you know, pooled that government funding through a fund, have it be an intermediary fund? So that's just one approach to getting bigger dollars. So with that, feel free to email me if you have any other questions. And thank you all so much for being part of this. And thank you to Kanita. Thank you to Jessica for your incredible work. Thank you to Marissa and the Transition US team.